Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're a new viewer. Welcome back to returning viewers. My name is Shannon Bellum. You can find me pretty much across all social media as Bellummake. I will have all the info right on the screen for you to see, and it'll also be in my show notes. So today I want to talk to you about color. I am not doing an update video. Instead, I'm going to just talk to you about color and the use of color, how to choose your colors, some pointers on how to choose your colors, but also just loads of information about color. So if this were my class, I'd be telling you to go get a piece of paper and take notes right now. And download the slides. There aren't any slides, I'm kidding. That's my normal way of teaching. But I have my own notes in front of me that I'm going to be referring to sometimes, and just to make sure that I'm covering all the information that I had intended, and to just go through this with you. So, first thing, before I get into the color, I want to share the prize winner from my little giveaway for having 100 subscribers, making it over the 100 number hump. So I will flash that person's name on the screen right here, and please get in touch with me if you are that person. Get in touch with me and let me know your address so I know where to send the skein of yarn. And yeah, so congratulations. Okay, without further ado, I want to just tell you quickly what Martha's wearing. I went over this sweater, and this is the Sunset Highway that many of you it's probably a familiar sweater. It's by Caitlin Hunter. The designer is Caitlin Hunter of Boyland Knits. And my yarns are the pink is Bay Street Yarns, the brown is Teeny Buttons, the gold is Twisted Finch, the turquoise is Ching Fibers. And yeah, I modified it because the yield that was listed on the pattern, I didn't get these same yields. I was short on both the turquoise, the turquoise yarn and the pink, the main color. So I modified the sleeve to finish it off. Oh, I have a little end sticking out there. So yeah, that's why I did this. I noticed that a lot of people did that, so I wondered if it was more, not just me, a problem with the pattern, the yield not being quite right for it. I also put in some shaping modifications on it. Yeah. Anyway, that's what Martha's wearing. What I'm wearing is my Big Bear Ski Bum sweater. And because I purposefully chose these two, because the color in the two sweaters are similar, very similar, and that was something that kind of happened as a result of the way that I operate when I'm picking color, and I'm going to talk about that. So anyway, I've talked all about this Big Bear ski bum sweater in previous videos, so I don't really want to talk a lot about it, but I'll list all the yarns and stuff if you're a new viewer and you're dying to know about the sweater. It's my own design. This is in a fingering weight. I'm making a worsted version that should be out shortly. Now that I've made some design decisions about it, I can now whip on through it and hopefully get it out to you by the end of this month. That would be awesome. Okay, so I want to talk to you about how to choose colors and where color comes from. In terms of fashion, like I'm going to talk to you about clothing primarily, about things we wear, and why we make the choices we make, and so I'm going to get into a little bit of the psychology of color and the psychology of choices, but also about as a knitter, how do you make choices in colors? Because certainly this was not the way that Caitlin Hunter had colored her sweater. She had made different color choices than I did. So when you see a pattern that you want to knit, so whether it's mine, like this one, or whether it's someone else's, another designer's pattern, how do you decide how to color it? How do you decide where to place the color? And how do you make those choices? Some people may find it very easy, and others may find it hard. I think people that find it easy are people that probably have a color that they love. So there are people out there, there's several knitters out there that are on Instagram who love yellow. So it's super easy for them. This would be a yellow sweater, and the rest of this would just be accents, maybe either tonal, doing shades of yellow, or doing maybe like they love navy with yellow. So this brown would then be navy, the body would be yellow, and maybe some other lighter yellowed colors in the other, for the other two colors. It would be an easy thing. People who like black or like neutrals, that would be an easy choice for them too. They would go neutral, right? It would just be all a bunch of neutrals. But if you like color, if you're like me, then people like us need a little more help. We need a little more guidance in how to choose our colors. So most color theorists will tell you, they're going to want to tell you all about the color wheel, and they're going to tell you that that's the place to start when you're thinking about color. I find it too simplistic. I think the color, if you're not familiar with the color wheel, I will I may be inserting pictures. Let me just say that I'm going to insert pictures where it seems necessary to make a point. So there may be points where I'm cutting the clip that I'm recording right now and inserting pictures. So just be prepared for that. So pictures may come and go and flip back to me and stuff. So most theorists will tell you to start with a color wheel. And while that can be a great place to start, particularly if you're a person who works with color in terms of dyeing. So if you're dyeing fabric, or you're dyeing yarn, or you're dyeing hair, having a color wheel and thinking about a color wheel and remembering the rules. There are a few simple rules that the color wheel emphasizes, and there's a reason why it's a wheel, which I'll tell you in a sec. If you're working with the color like that, then certainly working with a color wheel will get you through your day. Like, that will actually help you make choices that are important for you to make in order to do the dyeing that you're planning to do, or if you're working with color in that way. But I find those rules that come with the color wheel a little too simplistic. So what are the rules? The rules are basically that complementary colors, so colors that are across from each other on the color wheel, go together. So if you look at a typical color wheel, you'll see that blue and orange are across from each other. They're complementary. Red and green are across from each other. They're complementary. There's a problem with that, though, with red and green, which I'll get to in a point. I'll make a point with it because it's a really good example of something else. And then also there's this idea that harmonious colors, so colors that are next to each other on the color wheel, are harmonious. They go together. So usually what you find there are like those tonal. So if you're doing a gradient sweater, which many people have done fades. So fade is just another fancy word for gradient. If you're doing a gradient, then picking harmonious colors is the way to go. You want to make sure that they go together and that you're creating this gradation of dark to light in the same tone. So that looking at a wheel can help you figure that out. The problem with the wheel, the limitation of the wheel, is that it's usually only 16 colors. So it's like anywhere from 6 to 16 colors. Some of them are only 3, just the primary colors, which are red, blue, and yellow. Remember that, because I'll be coming back to that later. So the human eye sees about 7 million colors. So I don't find it that helpful when I'm confronted with, the mixture of colors that are in the world. I don't find it that helpful to remember that those rules, because you can get some shades of red and let's do blue and orange. I don't want to do red and green. You can get some shades of blue and some shades of orange that, yes, they'll go together, but is that the best match? Is that really what you want your sweater to look like, or your garment to look like? I mean, I would say it's questionable. Like, blue and orange isn't always like a go-to pair. In fact, I would think most of the time we think about blue and orange, I bet you as I'm saying blue and orange, you're thinking of a sports team. You were, right? You were. Because blue and orange is popular for a sports team. Maybe it's your high school colors. I don't know. Very popular color match. So I think I'm going to give you some other ways to figure out what are the best color matches and how to get color together. And it's going to get increasingly complicated. You can go stick a toe in and just do a little bit of this, or you can go all in and you can, follow in my footsteps and do what I do. I'm a trained professional in many ways. I'm a trained teacher. I'm a trained designer. So I have been doing these things my entire adult life, and I have a lot of years of experience. By all means, though, I'm happy to share what I do, and happy to have you, because you're going to come up with your own system that's going to work for you. I'm just going to share mine with you, and I'm going to also give you some really hardcore rules. So, if I ask you to think about your favorite color, do you have one? Not everyone does. I don't really have a favorite color. I mean, if I had to pick one, I'd probably pick silver, but is silver even really a color? It's metallic, right? I'm not talking about gray. I mean, gray is okay. It's a nice neutral. It doesn't look that great on me. It's not that complementary to my skin tone. I do like gray, and I have a lot of gray in my closet. But silver's what makes me excited. That's what gets me going. If I have to pick one color, but I like the metallic colored silver. I really like the color of real silver, and I like things that are silver-ish. So pewter is okay. Steel, I like that color too. It's a cooler silver, but I still like it. But really, if you ask me what my favorite color is, I would tell you all the pretty colors. I have very few colors that I don't like. I'm not really loving the brown colors right now, but I also recognize that I have changed. So I change with the times. I follow what's popular colors of the moment as well, and that's what gets me excited too. What gets me excited is seeing a new color combo, something that's fresh, something that's edgy, something that's exciting. That's what I get excited about in terms of color choices. And maybe that's you too, or maybe you want that to be you. So I will tell you how I get there. But for those of you who maybe like it in the slow lane a little bit better, there's some really easy ways to figure out what color combos you should pick for your knits. So maybe you take a year to make a sweater, and that's okay. I'm not judging. I'm just saying, if you take a long while to make a sweater, maybe making a trendy color isn't your speed. Like maybe that's just not something you want to do. So there are a handful of colors that are perennially in fashion and safe, considered safe. So I would say that includes all the neutrals. So what do I mean by neutrals? Neutrals are colors that are thought to go with everything, are said to go with everything. So black, white, shades of white like ivory, eggshell, sand, whatever you want to call them, those colors, navy and shades of navy, not indigo though, navy, and red. Pretty much every shade of red. Not pink, red. Occasionally dark green, like generally speaking, dark green is considered a safe traditional color. It's not really a neutral though. Oh, and gray. So black and those shades of gray. That black-white spectrum. So if white's here and black is here, in between are multiple shades of gray, right? So those are all neutrals, right? And then you've got white and you've got like, I don't know, beige over here and all the shades of white in between. Those are neutrals. And then I can do the same thing with well, I can't add in light blue. I can't add anything in that's, much lighter than navy. So navy changes sometimes. Sometimes it'll lean a little bit brighter, and sometimes it'll lean a little bit darker, but nevertheless navy. Same with red, like a true red, not a yellowy red or an orangey red, but a true red, not a blue red, a true red. Like spot on, true red. That's not really a neutral, but it's a safe color. It's a traditional color. Dark green is another, not really a neutral, but a safe color, a traditional color. Brown too. Brown comes and goes though. So brown is in and then it's out, and then it's in and then it's out. We're at the start of a trend of brown right now. So brown is coming back. Brown's coming back. I don't love brown. Brown's probably, when people ask what color yarn they should buy me, I'm like, pick whatever you like, but nothing brown, thank you. So I don't know. You can also sit on the sidelines with trends. So if there's a trend you don't like, feel free to sit over there on the bench and sit that trend out, because it will go away. That's the other thing I've learned over the years. So whether we're talking about color or design lines, whatever it is, if it's a trend you don't like, feel free to sit on the bench. It'll go away and you won't have to deal with it. I do that when jumpsuits right now. Jumpsuits. I'm saying that though. Somebody posted a picture of a jumpsuit that I really, really like. I may get it. I don't know if I'll go out in public in it, but I might get it for sitting around the house. Looks really cute. I've been on the sidelines. If I stick a toe in, I'll let you know. Okay, so neutrals, those black, gray, whites, beiges, and, off-colored whites. Am I missing any? Navy. They go with everything. You can do sweater. There are people who only dress in neutrals. There are neutral people. There are people out there who only knit with neutrals. It's fine. Do that. The other thing you can do, like say right now you're really digging turquoise. You love, love, love the shade of turquoise, and you're having a hard time not making everything turquoise. And what would you do in this case? Like maybe turquoise would be the body, but without contrast, you're not going to get this lovely color work going on up here. So the way to do that would be to take the turquoise, make it the body color, because that's the color you're loving, or maybe you have yarn on hand that you just love and it's a particular color that you love. That's your body color, and pair it with a neutral. So that's what I did here. So the brown is a neutral for me. So I paired the brown with a neutral. It wasn't that I necessarily adored this pink. It was something that I think I was going for the same. I had made this sweater first, and I was going for the same type of color palette. And in this case of both of these sweaters, these are reflecting a palette that was very popular in the 70s. And what that was pastel colors mixed with earth tones. So that's what you're seeing here, and that's what you're seeing here. Pastel colors mixed with these earth tones. So gold, brown, rust, those are earth tones. Dark green, even to some degree, but not as much. When you look at 70s fashion, if you do, you can Google it right now, 70s fashion. You can see real pictures from the 1970s. That's what you're going to notice, that it's a lot of earth tones with pastels, or sometimes just earth tones. So that's what people wore, and we're having a 70s resurgence right now. And so I pulled from the 70s color palette for both of these sweaters in order to get this palette. I'm going to tell you how I knew that it was a 70s resurgence in a minute. Well, let me keep going here. I want to talk to you a little bit more about color. So color matching, when you're talking about matching colors, colors are always either a red version of themselves, a yellow version of themselves, or a blue version of themselves. The three primary colors. If we're talking about yellow, red, or blue, however, then we're talking about either a blue red or a yellow red, which would look like an orangey red, or a true red, which is spot on pure red. Same with blue, same with yellow. Pure blue, pure yellow. So we can say pure blue, pure yellow. If you're talking to a dyer, like when I was in the industry, I used dyers all the time, of course. I was talking to dyers all the time. We were doing lab dips, what we called lab dips, where I would send them a swatch of something that I wanted, or maybe I was sending them a Pantone color chip, or I was telling them the Pantone number, and they were sending me back the fiber dyed. And then I was looking at the fiber against what my color palette was, and so because I was designing a collection, I needed to match multiple fibers to a particular color chip. So all those fibers had to come in, and I had to come in and match this one chip. And what would happen is that I would have to often say, okay, this on this fabric, we need to go 10% blue or 5% blue. Or maybe I'd say do 20, 15, and 10% more blue. Or when you're also doing colors, you're either saying more yellow, more blue, more red, or you're saying darker or lighter, meaning more black, more white. Those are the 5 colors that make colors, that will shape colors. So with those 5 colors, technically you should be able to make any color. I don't think it quite works that way. I've painted before. I've done some painting before, and it doesn't quite work that way. It sounds wonderful. I don't know how it works in yarn dyeing. I've never done any yarn dyeing, and I don't plan to. The market's really saturated. I don't know if you've noticed, but anyway, I'm drinking David's tea again. Super yummy. I'm drinking Pura Vida again. Pina colada flavors. It's so good. It's my son's favorite. So I had bought some when he was still living here, and he drank it all, and then I bought more, and he took some with him, and I kept some. So we could both have our Pura Vida. Okay. So learning how to working with those 5 colors, that's an art and a skill. So it's both a little bit of a talent, learning to recognize when a color is more blue and when a color is more yellow and when a color is more red and or darker or lighter, learning those shades and hues is a little bit of a, it's a little bit skill and a little bit talent. For some reason, I picked it up right away. I don't know what I did. I don't know. I can't explain it. I don't know exactly what happened in my brain, but I got it. The coin dropped. I learned when I was 20. Just boom, boom, boom. Got it. And I'm able to see color. My mom tells me I'm able to see. Hi, Mom. Hi. My mother watches. She loves when I talk about her. So my mom had said to me, you see things that I just don't see. And she meant color. We were talking about color one day. And I know that's true. But I've been trained as well as I've practiced. So I really notice it. Okay. So I don't want you to get too concerned or too confused about whether a shade is shading towards blue or red or yellow. You don't really need to worry about that. I'm going to give you some other guidelines instead. But generally, if you have a color or you've seen a color that you love, that's a great place to start. So you can always take the color that you love and pair it with a neutral. That's a safe bet. And anywhere on that neutral spectrum. Pull in any neutral, it'll go with the color, almost any of them. I wouldn't put brown and black together. It has been a fashion, like brown and black was really big in the 90s. But I don't know. They're so flat. They're kind of flat together. I wouldn't recommend that. I like black with grays. I think black with grays and black and white are really pretty together. But yeah, anyway. Okay, so you can always start there. If you're like me and you like change, though, you might want to pay attention to this next bit. So I want to talk to you about trends. So I'm going to first explain to you the science of trends, because there is a little bit of a science and a little bit of an art and a little bit of having a little knowledge about trends will really help you. So trends, color trends anyway. Let's just talk color trends, because color trends are really interesting. There are a handful of companies out there that determine color. So like Pantone. Pantone is probably the most well-known color trend company. And they're not always on point. But they're, we all, pretty much any industry that uses color, any industry, not just fashion, but also home decor, who else uses color besides home and fashion? Is that it? Cooking, maybe? I don't know. Well, other toys, a little bit. So industries that use color. Car companies, I guess, would be another one. Vehicles have colors too. Vehicles are really expensive though and last a long time. So and same with like couches and things like that. So those safe colors, those neutrals that I talked about, is along with red, dark green, and brown, sometimes brown. Those safe colors, those are colors that you will see a lot of in things that are considered more risky, and risk can often be determined by how much money you're spending, right? So a car is a pretty expensive purchase for most people. And if you're buying a new car, look around the car lot and tell me what colors you see. You see white, you see black, you might see silver or gold sometimes, you see blue, usually a dark blue like navy, and you see red. Occasionally you'll see brown. That's it. That's all you're going to see color-wise. The only car company, there's a couple car companies that have adventured out into crazy and cool colors, more trendy colors. Like for a little while, I remember in the 90s, eggplant was a big car color, and that was like really interesting for, people like me who look at color and have been, immersed in color trends my entire adult life. So that was fun. Mini Cooper does some crazy colors. I've seen pink minis. I've seen turquoise minis. I've seen yellowy cheese doodle minis, and like a lot of like yellow, like the yellow in the blue of my sleeve, like that color, gold, bright. It's a little bit brighter gold than the gold in that sweater. Yeah, so those kind of companies, though, that they were a little more adventurous. So it's also a lower price car, right? I guarantee you, if you walk onto a lot that sells high-end, expensive cars, your color choices are going to be really small. And there's a reason for that, because cars last a long time and they're also very expensive, so they're considered high risk. You see that the same limiting color choice in the garment industry, in fabrics and fibers that are expensive, like cashmere. So I remember just a couple weeks ago at Vogue Knitting Live, I went to the Clinton Hill cashmere booth. And those are basically, I just named her colors. The same car colors are her colors, with the exception of pale pink. And it's a really pale, pale washed pink, which is a pretty safe color. That's a safe shade of pink. Hot pink is a more dangerous or daring color of pink. So she has black, she has red, she has white. She has, I think she has she has camel. So camel, like on that beige spectrum. Camel's also considered a safe color. And pink, I think, I'm not sure if she has dark green or not. I can't remember. But yeah, that's why and interestingly enough, like for me as a knitter, so I've been knitting since I was 18. The color choices in yarn have been really boring up into like safe colors, right? Until indie dyers suddenly started dying, until like there was very, very few companies that would do daring colors, because knitters are considered a safe lot, a safe group of people who want more traditional colors. But if you're like me, I don't want 5 million navy sweaters or camel sweaters or red sweaters. I don't even like really red very much. I don't wear red a lot. I wear it occasionally. Red's my college color. It's not why I don't like it, but that's the reason why I have some red in my wardrobe. Occasionally I buy red, and when I wear a red sweater, everyone's like, wow, you're wearing red. You never wear red. Yeah, red is, it has to be a particular shade of red to look good on me, to look good on my complexion. That's another thing you want to check. Like when you're picking colors, you want to pick colors that look good on you. You want to pick colors that are going to enhance your complexion. So people come in all shades as well. So like my sons are all brown. They're all, nobody has my, whatever, I have fair skin. I have one son that's kind of fair, but he tans really well. So if he gets a little sun, he gets a little golden colored. But the other two are pretty brown. And we have this rule that brown people shouldn't wear brown. And I know some brown people do wear brown, but I don't like brown on them, and they don't like brown on themselves either. But they look great in other colors. So you take brown out, and there's still a lot of colors out there. They each have their own favorite color, so which I find very interesting. It's been very consistent. One of my sons loves orange, but his fiance doesn't like orange. She likes red. So he's okay with red too. But he hasn't been wearing much orange since they've been dating, but it's okay. It's fine. It is what it is, right? He loves her to death, so anything to keep her happy. Okay, so now that we've gotten traditional low-risk colors out of the way, and I think you have a good idea of what I mean by those colors, those are always good colors to knit with if you don't mind. Like, I enjoy the process of making the fabric, so I knitted a navy blanket a while ago, and I found it really dull. It was beautiful when I was done, looked very pretty, but the process of knitting that was tough for me, and it took me an extra while to get this blanket done because it was navy, and it was just solid flat navy, and I found it a boring knit. So I got very excited when I discovered that indie dyers had come out of the woodwork and were now offering their wares on Etsy and all of that, and some very interesting artsy yarns that were more interesting to knit with and just fun. And so that's brought me back to all of my ideas about color and about how I use color, how I think about color when I'm building my own wardrobe, and why I pick what I pick for the sweaters that I'm knitting. So unless you're Stephen West, stay, because I'm going to tell you about it. Because Stephen West has a whole nother philosophy. Like, he thinks more is more when it comes to color, and that's cool too. Whatever works for you, if that works for you. But if you're concerned about being on trend and you don't want to pick some wacky color combination that's just going to immediately bring a person to a place where they're just like, where did you pull those two colors together? Then stay, because I'm going to tell you about how to do that. So color combos, how to combine colors, like what two colors look good together, come and go too. So that can also be trendy. So right now, I'll give you a good example. Right now, yellow is having a moment. So yellow has been extremely popular over the past few years. And usually what we say about trends in fashion go complete a cycle of beginning to peak to end to phase out and end. That a cycle that takes anywhere from 4 to 7 years to complete. If it's more than 7 years, then that is thought of as like an not even, like, I would say in that 7 to 10 year. If it even makes 7 years, if it's a 7 year, that becomes like an era, right? An era, a color that represents an era. Like if you think back to, if you have looked at, so I'm looking at houses because I'm shopping for houses. If you walk into a bathroom that's pink and gray, that's from the 50s. That's the era of the 50s. So that combo of pink and gray was very popular, not only in clothing, but also in home decor in the 50s. If you think about the 70s, these combos were very popular. So earth tones with pastels. So that's why when I talked about the 70s having a resurgence, a moment right now, they're coming back, and we're on a trend, right? So we're at the pretty, if the trend is a bell curve, like, so not all the trends do a perfect bell. Some of them do like a long way up to the peak and then a quick down. But if we're talking about a traditional bell curve, then I would say that the 70s is pretty much, it hasn't peaked yet, but it probably will in the next couple of years. It just depends on us. It depends on us, consumers. Like we can either kill it or we can make it last longer. It's really about us. So if it's something that you're digging and that you love and you wanna make more, you wanna do more of it, then it'll be around longer the more that we do it. So the more that we embrace that color trend. So I want to going back to yellow for a moment, because I know that a lot of people have sort of caught on to this idea of grello, which is a gray-yellow combo. Grello's been around a little while as a combo, and I think it's hit its peak. That's just my opinion. I might be wrong, and I'm happy to admit that I'm wrong if I turn out to be wrong, but I have a feeling it's losing steam and it's going away. Yellow is still around though. Yellow is having a moment. Yellow doesn't always have a moment. Yellow is actually a color that is shunned more often than not, along with brown, though not at the same time. But yellow's really, really big right now. Yellow and gold. That yellow family and that gold family. It's really, you see a lot of it on the runway. That's how I know it's having a moment. But the gray and yellow combo's been around since about 2013. So we're already in the 5th year of grello. And I'm thinking it's over. I'm thinking it's probably, we're going to see less and less of it. I have a gray and yellow hat that I bought at a sale at a discount place. So there you go right there. It's a discount place. So I bought it a few years ago. And yeah, so it's been around. I bought it probably like around 2014 or so. And it started to, that combo, gray-yellow combo, was appearing on product boards probably around 2012, and then we started to see product in 2013 and 2014. It was still on product boards, but it hasn't been on product boards since 2013. You don't see it anywhere except when people are combining it, knitters or whatever. So, other colors, I want to just talk a little bit more before I tell you where to look for how to know what's on trend. Other colors such as other colors can define periods too. So a good example of that is the color pink. So pink comes and goes, and usually there's a particular shade of pink that'll become really, really popular, and it'll be really, we'll see a ton of it. And then there'll be other times that we don't see very much pink, or pink will kind of take a backseat to other colors. But when pink comes to the foreground in a big way, it is almost always because as a society we're suffering anxiety. So when, for example, at the end of World War II, or towards the end of World War II, there was this whole Think Pink movement because society didn't know where we were heading. We had just ended a war, and there was this anxiety, this broad-based anxiety that was being felt by many, many, many people, thousands and hundreds of thousands of people. And so when we're feeling anxious, we reach for pink. That's just what we do as a culture. It happened again. Another well-known time that it happened was during 9/11, or right after 9/11. Pink had a huge resurgence, and it came from nowhere. It wasn't anywhere you could not have predicted it by looking at trend boards or talking to the color companies that set trends for us, for all of us. So it really came from nowhere, and it came because we were suffering anxiety as a whole, as a collective whole. There was this collective anxiety that had emerged, and we all reached for pink. We saw it again last year when this country suffered anxiety from a large part of the country suffered anxiety from the president that was elected last year. And in 2017, there was a resurgence of pink hats that everybody was knitting and putting on and wearing all year, just to as a source of comfort for that anxiety, and also as a source of solidarity. So it took on yet more representation. I want to go back to red and green for a moment. Red and green, they are complementary colors, well known. They go together very nicely. But as a society, we associate them with Christmas. So those two colors don't get much play except around that time of year. Because otherwise, if you made a red and green sweater, or if you made a sweater that was red, green, and ivory, say, ivory is a very nice neutral and it goes well with those two complementary colors, you would be looked at funny if you wore that sweater in February, or if you wore it in November, because it's not really Christmas time, or maybe not November now, but okay, October, when traditionally we're wearing autumn colors, right? Autumn toned colors. So that's another way that we associate color combos with particular things, events, and also with time periods. So that brings me to how, though colors will have their moment, they do change, they do evolve. And I think once you get used to checking out color boards and color stories, you can really understand the trends. Like you're going to know when you see a fresh color combo, because you're going to have educated yourself on what is hot and happening right now and what was hot and happening a while back. This is how you get a hold of it. So how you get a hold of what's on trend. So back in the day when I was in the garment industry, we spent thousands and thousands of dollars. We subscribed to services that gave us the Pantone color story that was going to be big for that quarter of the year, that autumn, 2018 or spring 2019, like that section. We would get these like quarterly packages of color boards, color storyboards, and color combos, and we actually got little bits of yarn, which was kind of fun. There was one that always put it in test tubes, which was really interesting, and then there were other ones that made pom-poms that were colors, so we could take those pom-poms and stick them on a storyboard and say these are our colors, like even though maybe what we drew or what we had illustrated weren't the exact colors, they were pretty on point. I spent so much time, and my assistants, my design assistants spent a lot of time in Pearl Paint in New York City matching markers to swatches, so that our illustrations, when we were making presentations to the big shots that were making the decisions on what we were going to go forward with, would match, or would like give them a really close idea. Some of the crazy things you do in the industry. So yeah, so we spend all this money on these subscriptions, but these days with the internet, you can find it yourself. So that's been one of the joys for me since I left the industry and settled down in academia, and then the internet really emerged in a big way, and just like I can now find all of those color boards on Pinterest and on the internet. I can just Google it. If you just Google spring 2019, you're going to find some color stories, some color boards. But if you are interested in following trends and keeping up with what's on point, and I find it really useful, I use Pinterest. I would use Pinterest as well, because what you can do, like if you know already you have a Pinterest account for something else, make yourself a Pinterest color board for this year, for 2018, and just pull images in of things that you like. That's the way I do it. I do everything by... and I'm going to show you from on Pinterest what the color stories look like. And I mean, we used to pay for these, so this is kind of nice. Like I sometimes pinch myself. I can't believe that it's that these things are free. Let me find you a good. So it's like it's pulling in a lot of 70s things because I've been searching for that. All right. Oh, this is a good one. Let's see what year this is from. Okay, so this doesn't say the season. Most of them do, but this is a color story with a cranberry color. Okay, I'll try not to make this green. See how they pulled together? It's like mood photos to kind of give you the idea of like how this color should be used. And if I liked this, I could easily, I'm in Pinterest, so I could easily just save that right to my board. But even if I weren't in Pinterest, for those of you who maybe don't know or haven't tried Pinterest before, if I wasn't in Pinterest, if I just touch an image, even either on my computer with my mouse or with my finger on my iPad, if I just touch an image, it will immediately go to, it'll bring up a little icon that'll say, do you want to save it to Pinterest? Like pin it, and then I can choose yes, I can click that, and then it'll take me right to my boards, and it will allow me to choose which board I'm putting it on. I just want to tell you too, like if you think you're going to find me on Pinterest, you can find me on Pinterest, but I only have one board that's visible. I keep everything else private because it's just sort of like my old designer mentality that I want to keep my thoughts to myself about what I'm looking at. So I don't have any color boards that you'd be able to see. But there's nothing to stop you from looking at other stuff and things like that. I just want to show you another color board. There we go. So see how this one actually says it was published in January, but I don't know, just last week. I don't know. I'd have to check that. But if you liked this color palette, you see how, what I like about this is these are what I would call harmonious colors. So there's also a mood photo of some beautiful lily of the valley. But it gives you all the swatches there too of all the colors. So if I were pulling together, like say I had a yarn that was one of these shades of green, I could pull open my color board, like take that shade of green, pull open my color board and take a look at what were some of the on-trend color combos that go with that green, and then pick my colors based on what I'm seeing. So that's like kind of a nice, easy, safe way to pull together your color palettes. I will show you also, besides looking at color boards and color, oh, here's a good one. This is blue violet, and so this is right on point because Pantone's color of the year is ultraviolet. So here you go. This is like a color board with like a mood board with the swatches and the really intense deep shades of blue. So you could save that. If you love that color and you really want to work with the Pantone color of the year, you could make a whole board that's just violet. You can do as many boards as you want. There doesn't seem to be a limit. I haven't reached the limit anyway. But I will show you some of my color boards. I'll give you a peek at my My 2018. So my color boards are really kind of an interesting blend of colors that are, so this is my color 2017 color board. They're an interesting blend of those color palettes, color stories that I think are interesting, and also little details that I think are interesting, along with images from the runway. So this is actually revealing to you where I got my inspiration for Big Bear. So it's this picture right here. I was inspired by the sweater there. And what else? So I also pull in pictures. So this is from Instagram. That was a picture that I liked of a particular yarn combo that a dyer had posted. And these are other color combos and just some interesting different things that I wanted to pull in and remember. So I just plop them all on a Pinterest board. And yeah, so there's a lot of green, because green was a big color on the Pantone, in the Pantone color story, so I was really interested in that idea of using that. Pantone's not always on point. Pantone 2 years ago did a 2-color, blue and like rose quartz, and I don't remember what the blue was called, but those really were misses in my opinion. I see those colors now. I'm wearing them, and so is Martha. But with earth tones, so that's a difference. So they were just saying here are these colors. The other thing that you can look at, besides when you're looking at color, besides like looking at those trend boards, and the trend boards go way ahead, so you can usually see trend boards out for a year or so. You can also look at runway shows. So right now you can find runway shows. There's an app called that Vogue magazine makes called Runway. You can just download it on your phone and you can see whatever current runway shows have gone. That's also really valuable information. We didn't used to be able to get that. The only way you could get those would be to pay a service to give you those pictures, or actually go yourself and take your own pictures. So that can be very expensive for a garment center company. But these days you can see them everywhere. Like you can see the New York Times does a really nice collection of slideshows, and they do editorials and stuff about color. And designers shows. They have nice coverage, the New York Times, in their fashion section of the runway shows. And that Vogue magazine, not Vogue Knitting, but Vogue Magazine's app called Runway, you can see all the runway shows. So and you can learn, like, by looking at runway shows, you can also decide, you sort of get a feel for which designers you really like. You don't have to look at all of them. There's hundreds of them. Hundreds. Like, you'll be there all day looking at them, maybe for all week. But what you can see is color combo. So that's a good way to also check out color combo. I mean, some of the clothes are kind of outlandish, and they're things that you and I won't wear, ever. And they're also really expensive, so unless we're married to a millionaire, we're probably not going to even be able to touch them. But what you can get from looking at a runway show is, how did they combine color, what are the silhouettes, and then there's a way to adjust silhouettes so that they are ones that an everyday person can wear, and like make them more accessible, right? So for me, for this year, and I'm going to wrap this up about color, I'm reaching an hour, try to stay under an hour. For me, for this year, for 2018, what I am really paying a close attention to is Valentino's Spring 2018 runway show. The color combos that he used were really cool and interesting, and I found them on point, and I think that me and everybody else out there who's working with color should go back to that show over and over for the next year or maybe 2 years, because the way that he put color together, actually it's not him anymore. I don't know who's designing, because Valentino retired a while ago. So it's somebody else who designs, who's heading that house now, and I can't remember who. But nevertheless, that show, I also really love looking at Mazzani. I'm going to show you some of the Valentino clothes right now. And I look at mostly I look at a lot of knits. So if it's knit, I'm interested in it. So sometimes it's in order to see knits, I will look at menswear. And you know what's really interesting to me is that color work sweaters like this one are not on the runway. You don't see that. What you are seeing on the runway in sweaters are intarsias. And to me, it seems like right now, knitwear, hand knitting, is having sort of a color work moment. And I think it's going to grow. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking about intarsia. But what is on the runway is color blocking. So color blocking is like what I've done on this sweater, where especially what I have going on the sleeve, which you can see right here. Blue, rust. This is color blocking. So a block of color, a block of color, a block of color. That's what's on the runway right now. So that's what makes this sweater on trend, besides its color choices, but also the way that the colors are put together. Here, color choice is on trend. For what's going on in the Greater Garment Center fashion area, fashion arena. Colors are on trend. This patterning, not really on trend. But it's okay. Knitwear... hand knit market does follow it's kind of is in the shadows of fashion a little bit, and it does kind of its own little thing that sometimes does bubble back around to what is going down the runway. There's a lot of intarsia going down the runway too, especially last year we saw a lot of intarsia, which to me means intarsia will probably circle back around to the hand knit market soon. I don't think it's going to be too long, but color blocking I think is going to get there first. So I think maybe we're going to do color work, but we're also going to do color blocking, and then we're going to go to intarsia, because the next natural step after you've done color blocking is intarsia. Okay, let me show you real quick, a little quick peek. So I kind of took almost every one of Valentino's silhouettes and color garments that he sent down they sent down the spring runway. I put almost every one on my Pinterest board. This is just a few of them. I just really was interested in the way that he was using color, that color was being used in these pictures. I also find it really interesting that I saw, besides seeing what I'm seeing here on Valentino's board, see all the yellow, look at all the yellow, but also look at the gold, and look at gold with pink. I found that really interesting because I know Pom Pom magazine has been around for 5 years and they've always loved gold with pink. So it's interesting now that is coming up in the fashion world. So I think we're only going to see more of that. Oh, look, gold with pink. So that's kind of cool. The other garment that I found really, the other image that I am going to probably circle around. Wait, I want to show you more. There's more gold with pink. This is from Resort. From I think it's Dior. I think this is a Dior picture. Pink with gold with cobalt. So that was interesting to me. Look at that intense blue that they put with the color combos. There you go. You can just copy that. You don't have to reinvent the wheel or figure it out. That's a beautiful color combo. So the other sweater that I will be circling around and picking apart is this one right here. And I actually put a picture of this on Instagram. This is by Mazzani. So I'm always looking at Mazzani because Mazzani is all about the knitwear. But I love this sweater, and I had posted this on Instagram, and I asked if any indie dyers do self-striping yarns. I know a lot do self-striping yarns for socks, but do any do self-striping yarns that would work across the body? And I was wondering if there would be a indie dyer who'd be willing to work with me on something like that, because I would be very interested. I think that the way this lays out on the body is really cool. And yeah, there's a lot of really cool things about this image that I'm not going to reveal all my secrets to you, but yeah, take a look yourself and see what you like. At the runway shows, and also at the color boards that are around. So yeah, that is my little lesson about color and where I look, where I find inspiration, and where I, what I like to look at. So yeah, do your own research and see what you come up with, and you know, have fun with it. And if you really need license to let go, look at Stephen West's stuff. I mean, his stuff is really out there in terms of the way he uses color, and he's pushing everyone's boundaries. He's pushing like a lot of knitwear knitters. He's pushing a lot of knitters' boundaries, which is great. Like, that's a really cool thing that we need in you know, in our lives. Like, it's good to get outside your comfort zone a little bit and try new things. And oops, almost dropped my iPad. And try to, you know, try things. Like, just, it's only clothes. So it's not, you know, you're not changing your wardrobe permanently. It's just it's a sweater. You can make a new one, or, you know, it's a shawl or whatever. They're easy to make new ones or make more or get more. So I do know too that we have a lot of, I didn't get into this and I'm not going to get into it now because that's a whole nother thing, but there's a whole psychology around color, and people have different reactions to color. And that's also something that you should keep in mind when you are picking colors for your sweater. But think about yourself, like, excuse me, what you think about a color. And because what you think is probably not universal, because there's really not any universal thoughts about particular colors, except maybe like the red and green thing. I think probably worldwide, unless it's a culture that just hasn't really been exposed very much to Westernism. There's probably still a handful out there. I hope there is anyway, because I love diversity. But I think most of us realize that red and green are associated with Christmas, and then there's other color associations too that are nearly universal. I hate to say completely universal, because I just don't believe that there is anything completely universal. Because even black, like the idea of black being the bad guy, and that's an example I use in my classes a lot. Black, when I show you a man in a black hat, you probably would think it's that's the villain, right? Not that it's a bad man, but like, that's the villain. The white hat is the good guy, but that changes in Asia. So when you go to Asia, black and white have different connotations in those cultures. So it's like good to be aware of who your audience is. So yeah, think about that too. Like, think about the messages that you're sending when you are wearing, like one of my classes does a fun exercise where we talk about red as a color and what people think. Like, people will all share their thoughts on what they think when they see the color red, or see someone wearing red. Like, we change up the placement of where red is on the body, and that changes the meaning too. So think about all of that as well. Like be mindful, like, just be mindful and be self-aware of the choices that you're making, because all the choices that we make regarding our clothes and regarding what we wear are choices that begin really with the inception. So the inception of actually, you know, planning your knit, if you're a knitter, or planning your wardrobe, or when you're in the store examining something on a hanger, those things are going through your head, whether you're aware of them or not. Like, you're assessing that garment. Yeah. So I want you to just practice awareness of that and just see what happens. See what choices you end up making, and see if it changes some of the choices you're making, and push yourself outside your boundaries, because we all should walk outside of our boundaries occasionally. Thank you so much for joining me for this colorful episode, and I will see you next time. Bye.